Hello, my name is Michael Mastrella, and I will be reading the first chapter of the book I have written called Children of the Light, which is a very good one that people who like to read will like to read. If you like this story, then click on the link below and you can work out maybe getting you some more of the story. Without further ado, here we go. Chapter 1, Quota Night. The man on a pedestal is the easiest target. From Why I Did It by Arnie Cuddebuck. Being the newest, Don Foley had to do the job that no one else wanted to do. Wait in the shadows of the gravel lot along Route 25 where the speed limit changed from 40 to 30 with the radar aiming for drivers who failed to slow down in time. Scouring the streets for parking violations was a more popular gig. Most of the drivers echoed her own feelings. It was unfair, but the village was always in need of funding, and if the citizens wanted to vote against tax increases, send the coppers out to take their money in other ways, as the saying went. It was law. If they were driving 1 mile per hour over the speed limit when they passed the sign, they were breaking the law. Don endured the usual I was slowing downs and I just had a babies and collected 4 figures worth of village profit. This would continue until she met the quota. Driver after driver told Don that her business practices were amoral. She had a good weapon to fight the feeling that they were right, having had a baby of her own 2 months earlier. And it was of her son that she thought when the job became dangerous. The 5th ticket of the night motored by in an orange Nova. Her radar read 43, 41, 39. The driver had acknowledged the changing speed zone and was decelerating accordingly. Officially, they had broken the law. Don pulled her cruiser onto Route 25 and turned on the red and blue lights. As she drew closer to the driver, her high beams lit the interior of the car. The driver's head movements resembled those of a pecking hen, and police psychology aside, Don could see the driver was frustrated. After they were stopped in the shoulder, Don ran the license plate and brought up the driver's legal history. Jason M. Tosh, 27, 5'11", 175. Parking violation 3 years previous for facing the wrong way. Nothing else. Not bad for 9 years of driving. What the heck, Don would let him off with a warning. There would be other speeders coming through more deserving of a fine, that was for sure. She armed herself with a flashlight and approached with the usual caution. Do you know why I pulled you over tonight, sir? Because you're a fucking bitch, officer. He's having a bad night. Give him a chance to redeem himself. I beg your pardon? This is your way of leveling the playing field, isn't it? It was in his eyes. The man was going into the diatribe mode. What she had to do was wait for him to get it all out while being prepared for a physical manifestation. That's it, isn't it? He went on. Some dude did you wrong when you were young, so you became a cop to get revenge on men in general. Sir, I pulled you over because you see his face on every man who drives by, even someone who broke no law and hurt no one on his way home from a grueling double shift. But no, you wouldn't understand that. You sit there and play man car for a living, and I'll bet you make more than I do breaking my back for 60 hours a week. Isn't that right? Never get personal. Because you were speeding 13 miles per hour over the protect and serve? What a joke. In this hick town, you get paid more than I do, and you can't even protect yourself from me. You want to watch what you say in front of the camera, sir. Yeah, it'll catch something all right. It'll catch me getting out of the car, unarmed, and overpowering an armed, trained officer who only got the position because of the absence between her legs. You just threatened an officer of the law, sir. I suggest you think about your next words. I didn't threaten you. I won't do shit to you. I'm an honest man. You're the criminal. You're the one threatening to steal my money, which you don't need, and which I do. God, she hated to hold her tongue. It isn't me, sir. It's the law. I need your license and registration. You are the law, officer, and I'm sure your color has nothing to do with the fact that you have a higher-paying, easier job than a man who could do it better, right? Yeah, easy as pie. License and registration, please. Jason M. Tosh got both and handed them over without pausing in his rant. I'll bet Officer Dainty lives in a nice house while an honest man is struggling to support himself in a runty apartment. Go ahead, take more money. You need a 3rd overseas vacation more than I need a car that doesn't stall. I'm not taking your money, sir. I'm doing not directly taking my money, but taking it all the same. You get paid to ticket me. If you didn't ticket me, you wouldn't get paid. Ergo, you are taking my money. Thank you, she said, turning away with his license and registration. Before she started to her cruiser, he stopped her by adding, You know what I've been doing this whole time? What have you been doing this whole time? Memorizing you, so if I ever see you outside the uniform, I can spit in your face, and I have hepatitis. She hummed while drawing and printing his ticket. Back at the Nova, she offered the printout to Tosh. You have a court date on the 23rd, or you can mail in the payment by then. Tosh looked at the printout, sighed. Can you just let me go, officer? Please, I'm a good man. Rather than feeling satisfied that she'd held her ground until he pled, she was sickened by his attempt for sympathy after all he'd said. I'd love to, but then I wouldn't get paid. He nodded, snatched the ticket. That's how it is it? You just hardened my reserve. Thank you. He turned the ignition and sped onto the road, but it wasn't long before she saw his brake lights flash as he slowed to meet the speed limit. These people have to be accepted as part of the job. A potential sixth ticket sped by, a white Caprice easily going 50 well into the 30 zone. But Dawn was outside her cruiser and had no radar to support her argument. More than that, she was just unprepared to haggle another driver so soon after the last fiasco. She went to her cruiser and drove back to her hiding spot, looking forward to her goodnight call to Adam. She took a moment to compose herself, listening to the crickets, frogs, and cicadas making their night music. It was muggy, and the creatures of the woods were celebrating the weather. Dawn remembered Jason Tosh again and decided it was time to call home. Adam answered after one ring. How's the night going? She wanted to vent, but knew Adam was headed to sleep after the call and the stress would keep him awake. Sounds from the woods are nice. How are you and Cam? Finally stopped crying, so we're both good. Why was he crying? The usual. Any trouble tonight? She tried to hold in her sigh and failed. The usual. Whiny, right? Right. The last one threatened to infect me with hepatitis if he ever saw me again. Jeez, scumbag. Where's the douche live? Why? Just in case, if we're ever in this town, we'll know to watch out for him. I don't think he really will. Just in case. 14 Lane Road over in Juniper. Lane Road, huh? He actually lives on Lane Road? Sounds made up. All street names are made up, sweetie. Sure, but they could have tried harder there. I hope I didn't stress you right before bed. No, I'm fine. You always sounded fine during the goodnight call. She wondered where he got the energy after taking care of Cam all afternoon. Sounded ready to fall asleep. Look at it this way, hon. At least you didn't have to chase the perp into the woods. Who knows if we'd catch going in there tonight. I will look at it that way. Thanks, sweets. No problem, hon. We love you. Love you guys, too. Give Cam another kiss for me. Will do. Oh, and before I forget, Becky wants to know if we want to go to World's End next weekend. I'd love to. Sweet. Good night, hon. Good night, babies. Dawn pocketed the phone and took a sip of coffee. With nothing else happening, she became aware of the pain in her back. Keeping busy usually distracted the waves that radiated from her spine on a regular basis, but they were always there reminding her. The condition was in that tricky middle area. The doctors insisted that surgery was unnecessary until her motor skills were inhibited. Well, she was able to move without restrictions. It was just that every movement was a strain. No one believed her when she told them the pain of giving birth was a relief, because for a few hours her back was forgotten. They laughed as if she were joking, and she laughed with them. Until her spine finally gave up and snapped, the best she could do was find ways of coping, whether it was extra pads on the seat of her cruiser or ice packs on her days off. She intended to cope. No one wants to hear complainers like Jason Tosh. Checking the weather forecast, there was a report that the first tropical disturbances of the season were blowing off from the west coast of Africa and might gather power through the coming week. Before she could make it to the next weekend's local, another distraction sped by. No, not another distraction, the same distraction. It was the white Caprice driving 20 miles per hour over the speed limit for the second time in about 15 minutes. As Dawn pulled out on the 25 with the red and blue lights flashing, it occurred to her that this driver either wanted to be stopped or didn't care about being stopped. That typically meant that something was happening that was worse than getting a speeding ticket. She radioed it in. This is Don Foley in 47. I have a white Caprice that just broke the law for the second time in about 15 minutes. I'm recording the pursuit and could use some backup heading east into town on 25, over. The typical 10 o'clock silence, normally signifying a coffee break or a preoccupied cruiser. Briggs was doing mic work and Scranton was the only other cruiser on patrol. They would get the message whenever they returned. The Caprice slowed to a respectable speed as they wound into the deserted business district, but didn't stop. Don flicked on the siren, hoping they would take a hint. They didn't. They continued right on through to the other side of town. The white Caprice definitely wants to be pulled over, but they want to be pulled over in private. We're east on 25, heading into farm country, requesting backup, over. Nothing but static. Briggs, Scranton, where are you? Over. This was a situation in which she was limited by her lack of experience. She had never heard of a radio silence lasting this long and had no previous encounters to act as a guide. Something was definitely up with this driver. Letting the vehicle get away would make her a lazy cop and a guilty human being, especially if she learned later on there was something bad happening here that she could have prevented. The white Caprice finally pulled to a stop on the shoulder. There was no moon tonight, and the only lights on this part of 25 were coming from the two vehicles. The isolation was unnerving. This was only the sixth vehicle to have driven past her in the last 4 hours. It might be a while before another one came. With her high beams lighting the Caprice, Don ran the license plate. Better to know who you're dealing with before you called in again. She found that her hands were trembling as she brought up the information on William B. Davidson, 6'5", 240. The high beams did indeed light a large man. His shoulders were wider than the seat and his neck was as wide as his head. Any man with such a neck and a body to match knew they could overpower Don. She saw at the moment their eyes met hers. None of them had been this large or suspicious. William B. Davidson, speeding into town on 2 separate occasions, eluding an officer in pursuit, safely I should add, for 3 miles before parking. I am proceeding with caution and requesting backup a mile or 2 east of town on 25. Over. Static. Don was scared. Ordinarily, she would have liked the idea of arresting an actual criminal instead of finding innocent civilians, but nothing about this was right. Nothing was routine. The fact that Davidson had no criminal history and 38 years of living was slightly reassuring, and this could be a simple DUI, but you had to assume the worst when dealing with the unknown, and the radio silence was helping with that. Staying focused on the cruiser, staying focused on Davidson, she got out, unbuttoned the holster of her gun, and started toward the Caprice. That was the first chapter of Children of the Light by Michael Mastrella. If you liked it, and you would like to hear more or see more, click on the link. Tell me what you thought, leave a comment, whatever you do, and we'll be in touch about seeing what happens from there on, which is a lot of very good stuff. Thanks again for listening, and I hope to hear from you. Goodbye.